Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to IP Day Webinar Wednesday. Today's webinar, Make a Plan and Make It Intentional. Get going and stay going in your professional development. It is my honor and our pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Ramin Yazdanpana. Dr. Ramin Yazdanpana works as the Director of Full Circle Language Learning. He holds a doctoral from Florida State University for his research on developing intercultural competence with English language teacher programs through focused intercultural exchanges with English language learners. He has over 20 years of experience as an English language teacher and over a decade of experience as a teacher educator. Dr. Yazdanpana has served as the Teaching English as a Foreign Language Certificate Program Director at the Center of Intensive Studies at Florida State University. He has also served as a U.S. Department of State English language. Dr. Yazdanpana works as an ESOL technical expert and teacher trainer with the Learning Systems Institute at Florida State University, the TESOL International Association, and the Florida Department of Education. Dr. Yazdanpana has delivered numerous presentations and workshops on intercultural intersection. In addition to his academic work, he also facilitates intercultural edutainment through musical performances, like you just heard, and workshops with his band. His Marahara Flamenco CO, sorry about that. Dr. Ramin Yazdanpana brings his experience and expertise to English language teaching, teacher education, intercultural competence education, and TESOL program development. A true global nomad, he currently lives and works both in the United States and Istanbul, Turkey. Dr. Ramin Yazdanpana, I just had to read that because we're just so honored and privileged to have you today facilitating our webinar. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, June, for that introduction and for pronouncing my name so perfectly. I appreciate that. So yes, hello everybody, and merhaba to you from Istanbul. Actually, yes, it's actually Istanbul, Turkey, not Istanbul like Georgia or Istanbul, Florida. It's actually Istanbul, Turkey. So it's in the evening here right now, so I get to join you here. So as June read out there, my hometown is actually Tallahassee, Florida, and Istanbul is home for me this year. So if you would, and I see some of you already doing it, if you would please just introduce yourself in the chat and just take a moment to type where you are joining us from, so we can all just kind of see where everyone is. Thank you. And while you're doing that, I'd like to give music credit to the Maharaja Flamenco Trio. And that's a lot to say, I know. And the song that you heard in the intro there is called Mar Negro, the Black Sea. And if you like, you can check out more of the music of our music. I'm actually in that band as well. I'll put it in the chat here. So if you liked what you heard, there it is. So I want to thank you all for being present today, either by being here live together or viewing this video later. I also want to support your decision on creating the time and the space in your day for your professional development. Our knowledge, skills, and abilities are some of our most valuable assets in life, and investing in ourselves always pays off. So again, my name is Ramin Yazdanpana, and I have the honor and pleasure to lead us in our webinar today. Make a plan and make it intentional. Get going and stay going in your professional development. So connecting and learning with you all, fellow educators, is one of my favorite activities. I've been so excited, these last couple of weeks and all day today just to do this webinar. So, oh, great. We have some people here. I'm just reading. We have some people actually in Turkey. That's great. as well as all over Florida as well. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm gonna turn off my video now just so we can focus on the slides, and maybe I'll turn it on a little bit later. Okay. All right. So just a few key points to know how to interact today. We will use the Q&A option mostly at the end of the webinar. I'd like you to use the chat option for most of our interaction during our webinar today. Feel free to use exclamation points and emojis to express your tone and emotion, since you will only be in listen mode. So the more you can engage in the chat, the better. I'd also like to thank the positive and brilliant IPDA team, June, Tammy, and Joseph, for their support. They have provided this presentation in PDF format on the IPDA website, and the recording will be available within 48 hours for review and sharing. I can also see from those who took the survey, many of you already engage in some form of PD or professional development in so many ways. So I'm preaching to the choir, which is fantastic. I think that that's very important to preach to the choir. Hopefully your experience in this webinar reinforces and expands your professional development habits and just reinvigorates your energy to kind of share some of the things that we talk about today. So as adult ESOL educators, setting an intentional plan for professional development, or PD as I will refer to it, is key to growth, and we don't have to, nor should we do it alone. Through our webinar today, we will discuss the importance of PD and being intentional about our professional development, share some of the potential motivations and constraints of to PD, look at several approaches to professional development that we can apply. We'll also learn some of the research and techniques and strategies to forming and maintaining healthy habits of professional development. And this is all setting us up for reflection on our teaching practice and on our professional identities. So I'll lead you through a guided mindfulness activity to facilitate this process. So does all of that sound good? If you can just please let me know in the chat if that sounds good to all of you. Let me know. Let me hear you. So I'll also share some resources. Thank you. I'll also share some resources to help us sustain our professional development, and we'll talk about more on that later. So we will look at several examples of PD today, but before we do, I think it's important to understand some of the formal and informal ways we can engage in PD. So the more formal or structured ways we can engage in PD are through conferences, seminars, workshops, and webinars similar to this one. Another is through collaborative learning with work teams and colleagues, and also college courses at universities, colleges, online programs. They can all be impactful sources of PD. There seem to be more and more options every year through even private companies such as LinkedIn Learning, Coursera. The list goes on and on. There's also some forms of PD that are more informal ways. So one is discussions among work colleagues at work or online, independent reading on topics, teaching methods, and research in the field, as well as observations of colleagues, classes, and materials that you might engage in. So looking at these examples of informal PD in the chat, as well as formal PD, please write some of the ways that you either currently engage in or would like to engage in PD. So any of those, what do you currently engage in? And let's just start there. What forms of these formal or informal approaches to PD do you engage in currently? Please feel free to write that in the chat. Mainly informal, yes. And when we say, informal, that doesn't mean less than formal. Listening to podcasts, I love podcasts as well. I love how I can fold clothes and listen to podcasts at the same time. Great independent reading and workshops. and nearly all of them. So fantastic. So yeah, we're living in an incredible time where there's so much information. So really, I think the 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 challenge is for us to kind of be organized and intentional and develop a focused approach to professional development. Okay, so moving on here. Why does PD matter? So it's always a good thing to ask, right? So what? Why does it matter? Why does PD really matter? PD takes time, it takes effort, at times it takes money, all valuable resources that can be utilized in so many other ways. Uh, for one, the complexity of teaching in general and the teaching of adult ESOL learners specifically is quite complex. So that's one rationale for engaging in PD. As teachers, we have to develop the knowledge, skills, and abilities of teaching methodology, classroom management, knowledge of our students, needs, goals, motivations, assessment, as well as changing state initiatives and policies around adult ESOL. Uh, Secondly, developing effective teaching practice takes time. Personally, it took me 3 to 5 years, early in my career until I felt like I really developed a fluency and ease in teaching. To this day, teaching any class is a challenge and requires a diverse skill set to plan and understand how to best utilize and leverage materials, resources, time, and students. So, therefore, it's not very surprising that 1/3 of teachers leave the profession of teaching within 3 years, and 50% leave within 5 years. So, cultivating a growth mindset and skill set of knowing how to best access resources and connect with other professionals in the field is thus really an essential, part of being able to adjust to the constant changes that are part of life, really. We all have definitely seen that over the past 2 years. And it's definitely a part of being a teacher. So, how can PD address some of the challenges that we face? So, for one, focused professional development can prepare us to meet the challenges of teaching that we've discussed, expand our skill set, and build up our teacher tool belt so we have what we need, or at least know where to find what we need as we enter the classroom. Participating in professional development exposes us to new ideas and perspectives and can often reinvigorate our motivation through inspiring ideas and develop more sophisticated understandings of our teaching practice, of our students, and the connections to the broader context of education within community, society, and culture. So, as a result of an increase in our expertise comes greater confidence in the work we do. This confidence can carry over into the classroom when we come back to our students and apply what we have learned. We also serve as a role model professional to our students, especially as adult ESOL educators and our students being adults. We serve as a model of what it means to be professional and how we can continue to learn, and how that's the norm throughout life. It's not an exception. So connecting with other teachers also adds to our professional identity to share ideas, compare experiences, and really establish a network where we can exchange advice and support. I think I engage in this kind of connections and conversations with teachers or fellow educators, weekly. So I know from my own experience as an adult ESOL educator, when teaching classes in the evenings, there's often little time to engage in deeper conversations of teaching practice. I'm usually the one who's kind of locking up. So therefore, being intentional about PD is really needed and appreciated when attending conferences, webinars, and just talking shop with other teachers in person or online. So, as we will discuss in more depth soon, setting goals and perhaps more importantly, systems of habit formation are essential to realizing our goals of becoming better teachers, mentors, administrators, and professionals. So, lastly, always keeping our students in mind, it's important to remember investing in yourself as an educator will also help your students. The more professional development teachers get, the more likely students are to succeed. So with that, I hope this reinforces how and why PD matters. And there are of course diverse motivations and challenges to PD that need to be addressed. So let's take a look at some of the survey results that some of you were able to provide. So thank you to all of you who were able to do that. And for those of you who didn't, you can add your responses in the chat. So let's look at this survey item on motivations to develop your professional practice. So here were some of the responses. Some of the motivations. So I like to keep my teaching skills current and inviting. Yes. To mentor new employees with the Department of Corrections, pass on best practices. Fantastic. Motivate, reach goals, improvement, right? To count on a good number of students interested in improving their skills. So that's passing on that knowledge to students. Manageable short-term goals and long-term vision. I like that for the future of our program. The learning and enrichment aspects of professional development practice, supporting students. So increase student achievement, great. And 11, none at this time. I love that honest answer. Hopefully through this webinar, we can develop some potential motivations. So I see in the chat here, we see new ideas, new information, students growing. So yes, and if we want our students to grow, we really have to grow as teachers. And so, some of those motivations can be, even I saw in some of the survey results with some of the goals, learning a new language. What a great goal, especially as a language educator, to be engaging in language learning ourselves, right? And to share that with our students. So, okay, fantastic. Moving on to the next survey item. So this is on constraints and barriers to PD. We can see that the main constraints are time. It is really time. So followed by access, motivation, and knowing how to engage in PD. So thank you again for sharing this. Yeah, I'm not surprised either. I mean, time is such a valuable resource, and it seems like, the days go by quicker, and the months go by quicker. So we're going to talk about some ways on how to be a little bit more intentional with our time, and some tools that I'm going to share with you to kind of help with this as well. So there are many different forms of professional development, and today we'll discuss these that we see on the slide. So we're going to discuss self and peer observation, logs and journals, communities of practice, and of course, specifically communities of teaching practice, action research, and student feedback. So most likely, many of the approaches to PD are not new to you. However, this is an opportunity to rethink and perhaps expand our approaches to PD, as well as share with others in this webinar some of your experiences with using these approaches. So I'm calling, and I would really like to draw on your expertise and what works for you as we go through each of these approaches. Okay, so we'll first start off with self and peer observation. So a reflective practice is really at the core of professional development. And I have little doubt that we all reflect on what we're going to teach, how we're going to teach it, and how the class went after we taught it. With that said, it can be difficult to have a more objective perspective on our teaching. This is where self and peer observation are needed. So having a clear task or purpose to the observation can enable the observer to know what to focus on. It is easy to get distracted and lose sight on what we and others should be observing. So the task can be a set of questions that you want your peer to respond to, questions that you have about your own teaching, or an observation task that delves into the specific area of learning and teaching. So I think that the key here is clarity, focus, and intention. So looking at the example on this slide, the observation task is focused on giving learners a voice in a lesson. So on the left of the column, we see some principles of learner-centered teaching that a teacher might want to apply in the classroom And on the right, observation notes on these principles in practice. So at a basic level, questions that you can ask yourself are, what is a specific area that I want to observe in my own teaching? Or what do I want others to look for and give me feedback on? Keep in mind that this doesn't always have to be a perceived weakness. Observing and having others observe your perceived strengths are also important. This provides an opportunity for you to reinforce this strength and for other teachers who are observing to learn from you. So in the chat, if you would, quickly type a specific area in your teaching that you might want to focus on through self and peer observation and feedback. Don't overthink it, just whatever comes to mind. Nice, differentiation, yes. I saw a great webinar that's on the IPDAY website on that specific topic. Anything else? Any other topics that you might want to focus on through self and peer observation and feedback? Time management. Yes, I can see that as far as how if I set time for things and I always go over time, um, and how does that affect things? How does that affect the class? Encouraging participation from all. So all great topics. Again, this is an opportunity for us to start reflecting, to start thinking about certain areas of our professional development and certain approaches that we can apply to developing those areas. So as a resource to practice peer observation, I just wanted to share this. This is from a resource from Literacy Minnesota. And this website here has, I'll copy and paste if I can, the link in the chat. And it just has some good videos, some observation forms that you can use to kind of practice this, that you can use to kind of model also reflecting on a video that you've perhaps that you can record on yourself. So if you don't have anyone in your school who's available to sit in your class, you can set a camera or phone at the back or side of a classroom so it captures as much of the class interaction as possible. You can then go back and view the video and apply a self-reflection checklist. Keep it simple and reflect on one or two, or at the most 3 specific features. This will allow you to focus and make any needed adjustments as well as reinforce what is going well. So I encourage you to also focus on that. You can also share your recorded activity, that short, like 5-minute, 10-minute activity with a peer to get their feedback using the same observation form. So just some ideas there. So our next approach is journaling. So journaling is often perceived as an individual activity that is private and rarely shared, and that is just fine. However, it does not always need to be a solo endeavor. We can work cooperatively with a peer or mentor using dialogue journals. So pairs or groups of teachers commonly create online discussion forums or even messaging groups for this purpose. I suggest that we take time in class to journal with students. So this establishes a reflective practice that is beneficial to everyone in class. So looking at the example students journal guiding questions that we might want to ask students to get their feedback and have them engage in a reflective practice of learning, I would like to ask you, what kinds of questions can we ask ourselves as teachers when journaling and reflecting on our teaching practice? So I'm going to copy and paste this Jamboard link to the chat. And I'd like us to just brainstorm here some possible guiding questions for ourselves. So I'm going to come over here to the Jamboard, and you can select a sticky note and type a journal prompt. So you can select a sticky note here. So if you can just, post what are some questions that teachers can ask ourselves when journaling. Are you all able to access this Jamboard? Okay, I posted the link. I'll post it again. Let me see. Let me change this. Maybe I need to do it with an editor. Let me try this again here. All right, let's try this one. Here we go. I see some dolphins here. Let's see. So you guys can't see it here. Everyone, here we go. Sorry, I had to change the permissions. How about now? Yes, thank you. Thanks for letting me know, everybody. I appreciate your feedback. So I think everyone can access the Jamboard. I'm seeing people flowing in here. Yes. So again, what are some questions we can ask ourselves while journaling on this reflective practice? What outcomes did my lessons produce? That's a good one too to um, for us to reflect on and then ask our students to compare. Maybe ask them a similar question to that. Did my students meet the objectives? What challenges did we encounter during the lesson? Yeah, absolutely. Were my students engaged? What strategies did I use for visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learners? Nice. Yeah, that's a great reflective question to kind of check in. Did my students meet the objectives? Did my students seem engaged and active? What topics of interest might the individual students in question feel more comfortable writing about? So all great questions. And so, as I'm reading this, I talk too much. So these are also reflection questions and feedback that, of course, can be similar to what we ask our students, right? So, you can even ask yourself, what did I learn in class today? What did I find interesting? What questions do I have about being taught? What helped me to teach today? What connections did I make from previous lessons? And how can I apply what I taught to the following classes? So, addition to all of this, these are great, all great reflection prompts. And again, why not just take 5 minutes at the end of a class, even if it's just once a week, to engage in this kind of reflective feedback along with our students. Okay, thank you everyone for your participation there. So the next one here, and that flows right into learner feedback. So there's another important activity when engaging with professional development, that's asking our students how they feel the class is addressing their language needs, their interests, and their life goals. So as with all forms of assessment, teachers need to gather ongoing and meaningful input from our learners. But sometimes this can be difficult for both linguistic and cultural reasons. So the first are language obstacles. Learners may not have enough language to talk about instruction. So this can be addressed by keeping feedback forms and activities simple. You can even allow students to provide written feedback in their first language, which can be translated later. The second are cultural obstacles. In some of our students' experiences, they would never have been asked to evaluate their teachers. So as Betsy Parrish points out, develop means of evaluation that allow learners to provide meaningful feedback in non-threatening ways. Assure them that feedback does not affect their standing in the program. Maybe use group consensus, which gives a group opinion rather than a personal opinion. Also, students may have an easier time talking about activities and content as opposed to the teacher and teaching. So looking at this slide, this is this kind of simple evaluation activity where the students complete the sentence with activities can be conducted on a regular basis, weekly, bi-weekly, midterm, as well as the end of the term and final evaluation. Having students provide feedback also goes beyond informing your instruction. Such opportunities enable them to be involved and have greater ownership in their learning, co-creating the class content and activities to meet their language and life needs, challenges, and goals. And I know for, when we actually do make those modifications, students feel valued, they feel heard, and everyone's just happier. Okay, so another way to interact with colleagues is through the formation of communities of practice, or COPs, which are small groups devoting time to support one another through active listening and exploration of common issues and concerns that we're having. So this is personally one of my favorite and most sustaining forms of professional development in my personal and experience. So I'd like to distinguish communities of practice from formal work groups, project teams, and informal networks. A community of learning and teaching practice is more interested in sustained connection and collaboration, gradually building a supportive environment for deeper and more valuable sharing of our teaching experiences. Membership is voluntary, and it's really the passion, commitment, and identification with the group's expertise that sustains the COP. The group can last as long as there is interest, and the group membership and focus can shift as needed. So I'd like to share with you a bit about myself, in addition to what June read, through the lens of some of my current communities of practice. So I think you can know a lot about a person based on who their COPs are. So I also hope this will help us relate to what COPs are and expand our understanding of how they can be organized. So the first is a COP through TESOL International Association's Intercultural Communication Interest Section, of which I have been an active member for over 6 years now. So the screenshot at the top you see here is of the Facebook group that we use to post events and resources. So that's one platform that we use. We also use Zoom to meet monthly to connect webinars such as this one, to just have coffee hour meetups, to have calls for contributions to our newsletter, as well as collaborate on presentations and publications with each other, as well as other interest sections. So we can see here this screenshot. This is our last kind of coffee hour meetup. This COP space also serves as a great place to mentor new teachers and scholars, as well as to learn diverse perspectives from our very diverse and global members. So here are just some other TESOL interest sections, which are really communities of teaching. That if you're not currently involved with TESOL, or even if you are currently involved with TESOL International, you might not know about them. And we can see some of them here with adult education, non-native English speaking teachers, bilingual, multilingual education, program administration. So if anyone's part of a COP, let me know. So one question here, does one locate such COPs? What is the platform? So these COPs, these are, if you go to TESOL International Association and you look at interest sections, you're going to see a long list of them. And I'll tell you what, this has been some of the most valuable resources for me for networking, for collaborating, and just, making good friends and colleagues that are all around the United States and all around the world. So the next COP is a community of breathing practice that I initiated with a group of friends to motivate and support healthy habits. So in this example, through Wim Hof breathing technique. Any Wim Hof breathers out there? Let me hear you if you are. We meet weekly through Zoom, as well as have WhatsApp groups or a WhatsApp group to share resources, experiences, and updates. So this platform is building a COP using WhatsApp, as well as using Zoom to kind of do meetups and engage in a practice weekly. In this case, a practice of health. The final example of community of practice is this community of music practice that I've engaged with for over 11 years called the Maharaja Flamenco Trio. So I don't know if the link came through last time because I think it was only messaging or putting things in the chat for the host to see. So that's the link there. And so, before the pandemic, we would meet in person to practice music, exchange ideas, plan for performances and educational or edutainment presentations, as well as socialize and strengthen our bonds through music. So, through this community of practice, we've been able to collaborate with other musicians and just continue to connect, even virtually. So, as a little break and as an example, let's watch a short clip of our community of music practice in action, where we recorded a video for an album that we released last year. So this song is called Hey Yadaki, after the Aboriginal name of the instrument you will see me playing. So this is a little quiz here. After the video, let's see if you know the name of the instrument. Filmed in Make a Note before, right outside of game. Try your best. All right. Yes, that's mis amigos, the Maharaja Flamenco Trio with Jose Valentino, who's a UF professor, as well as Silvio Chule and David Cobb, all actually educators in Florida's college and university systems. So what's the didgeridoo? Yes, for 10 million points. Excellent. So hope you enjoyed that little mental break and that example there, right, of another community of practice. Thanks, I appreciate the emoji. So let me ask you, what communities of practice have you participated in, right? So this can be a community of teaching practice or any community of practice. And how did this, that COP benefit you? So if you can contribute that in the chat, a community practice and how it benefits you. IPDA COP. Yes. And how does IPDA COP benefit you? I know it benefits me. I love the webinars on there. I love the collaboration with those who are involved. This is a good example of us being here right now. And it doesn't have to be necessarily even a professional COP as far as like teaching. It can be anything. Yes, allows collaboration with ESOL teachers throughout the state. Nice. IPDA COP benefits me by connecting to people from all over. Awesome. A lot of love, a lot of IPDA love here. I lead a book club, thank you, through the ELP COP. It expands my horizons, makes me reflect on great issues in the sphere of ELT. Perfect. And feel free if you all want to share any links to any COPs that are open to join. Please share that in the chat as well. I love that idea of the book club, and that provides motivation, right? When you know that you have some accountability, when you have to show up for that meeting, it provides a little bit of the fire to and focus, right, to engage in professional development. Okay, lots of fire, yes. More fire. All right, let's speaking of fire, let's keep it blazing here. So Dedicating the time to establish a COP is much like establishing a garden as a gardener here. It takes time, up front and energy, as well as keeping maintenance with the help of some friends if possible. But the veggies and the fruits that come to bear are in the form of greater confidence and teaching ability in the classroom, greater networks and connections to other professionals and opportunities in the field, as well as healthier professional identity as an educator. So our final approach for PD is action research. So I know the word research often strikes feelings of trepidation for many. After all, the rigor, time, resources, and energy that is needed to publish a dissertation or a journal article can make research seem out of reach and impossible to fit into our busy times. I mean, time was the main kind of obstacle, right? That was listed in the survey. More immediate needs as educators take precedent. So thankfully, there is an alternative approach to research that is perfect for teacher practitioners, action research. So action research has many of the same ingredients as any research study, but is particularly suited for a teacher's classrooms and serves as a powerful tool for ongoing professional development. So let's look at the following steps for conducting action research. 1, identify an issue. What is something that you are struggling with as a teacher or as an administrator? Is there an approach or strategy that you want to experiment with in your school, in your class? 2, gather information about the issue. There are many ways to gather information: reading, conducting online research, talking to other teachers and students, observing others, attending webinars, journaling. 3, use that information to design changes in the classroom procedures. Design new activities, be creative, right? Implement new specific strategies that apply what you have learned through your research. If you never take a risk and try something new, you never learn. 4, implement this procedure. Now try the procedure out in your classroom over a period of time. And 5, observe changes this implementation brings about in the classroom. Observation takes planning. Use of observation checklists, journals, interviews, and analysis of students' work can be rich sources of data. I would bet that most of you do many, if not all of these steps already. Action research provides a bit more structure to this reflective practice so that you can share and compare your findings with colleagues and students. This kind of professional exchange can build your professional identity into the leader and mentor you are and have the capacity to be. So we don't have time to do a deep dive into action research. However, we can start with the first step: identify an issue, right? So we've already kind of engaged in that. So I want to ask you to continue to reflect. What potential topics of action research come to mind for you? So don't overthink it. This is a brainstorming exercise. What naturally comes to mind? So please share that in the chat now. What can be a potential topic that you can use for an action research project? If you can put that in the chat. And again, this is for you, right? This is for you just to kind of start to think, okay, if I feel that action research is an area that can be beneficial to reflecting and analyzing, right? So we have workforce education and training. Yes, IET, absolutely. That's one that was on the survey as well. Student retention at the end of term, always a challenge, I think, for most adult ESOL educators, given all of the challenges that our students have and to come to class. So again, an opportunity. I think we should look at this as an opportunity to be creative, to try new things, to document and to share, right? Share through a short publication, a newsletter, journal, a presentation at Sunshine State TESOL or at ACE or any of these different conferences, right? That can provide you with that opportunity to share your experience. Okay, so having sustained PD is really about establishing routine habits that we develop daily. So I'd like to share with you a clip from the video summary of the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. So I hope this video can provide some insights on the large impact that small changes, and again, small changes can make towards the lives that we would like to create for our lives and in our professional development. All right, so let me come over here. All right. Enjoy this.
Imagine a plane taking off and traveling from New York to Los Angeles. Just before takeoff, you adjust the plane just slightly by 3 degrees or around 80 inches. If you were to keep flying in a straight line, you would end up closer to Tijuana in Mexico than in your intended destination of Los Angeles. And the same goes for our habits. Tiny changes in our habits can change the trajectory of our lives in ways that we can't even notice until many years into the future looking back, in both good ways and bad. You are your habits. The power of atomic habits. A slight change in your daily habits can guide your life to a very different destination. Massive action versus 1% improvements. Far too often we convince ourselves that massive success is only possible through massive action in any goal we are pursuing. We expect ourselves to make some quantum leap or momentous improvement that will gain others' attention. However, it is the tiny improvements that aren't even noticeable at first that create incredible change. Let's look deeper into the math. 1% better every day for a year will compound to 37 times better, but 1% worse every day over a year will bring you close to zero. Your habits can compound against you in the form of things like stress or negative self-talk, or they can compound for you in the form of things like knowledge, productivity, skills, and relationships. Success is the product of daily habits, not once-in-a-lifetime transformations. The truth about progress. When you start any endeavor in your life, here is what you think should happen: linear progress. But here is what actually happens. Notice this section here in the beginning. Small changes in our progress are not even noticeable. James Clear refers to this part of the graph as the valley of disappointment. You've done so much, you've put in so much effort, and you can barely see any results. This is where most people fail and slip back into their old routines. The most powerful outcomes of any compounding process are delayed, so patience is required. Goals versus systems. Forget about goals, focus on systems instead. A goal is the result you want to accomplish. Systems deal with processes that lead to the results. The conventional wisdom suggests that the best way to achieve anything we want in life, be it getting into better shape, building a successful business, or spending more time with family, is to set specific, realistic goals. But if you completely ignored your goals and focused only on your systems, would you still succeed? The author of this book argues that you would. Here are some problems with only having goals. Successful and unsuccessful people share the same goals, so therefore the goal cannot be what differentiates winners from losers. Achieving a goal only changes your life for that moment in time. Goals can create an either-or conflict. Either you achieve the goal and succeed, or you don't and you're a failure, even if you are making progress in the right direction. When you achieve a goal, what do you do after? If your goal was running the local marathon, chances are after completing it, your motivation will quickly fade and you will just slip back into your old routines. Goals are good for setting a direction, but systems are best for making progress.
All right, so I hope that you enjoyed that video. What I'll do is I will copy and paste this link here so you can watch that. The whole video is just inspiring. I think this is one that I come back to routinely just to kind of set reminders for myself. And the book, of course, is fantastic. And if you just look up James Clear, that's going to be there's a lot of interviews and him talking. So a very, very powerful resource there. So 3 quotes here from that, right? That I'm not going to go over in depth, but I think that you get the idea that it's talking about the small things, right? And creating these habits is a daily process. It's not once in a, it's not just like these big kind of momentous things that we do. We have to kind of think about a system of professional development and what can we do daily? What is the 1% things that we can do daily that we have the time for, and start small. Start very small. Okay, so the next thing we're going to get into here is a mindfulness activity. So this is something that you probably might have heard of, mindfulness, but it might be new to you in practice. So mindfulness, as defined by Joan Kabat-Zinn, is paying attention in a particular way on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. As we can see from this definition, mindfulness can be exercised in many different ways, through breathing, walking, cooking, playing music, conversation, but in a more intentional and meta way where we take the role of the observer of our actions, emotions, and the world around us. It is from this vantage point that we can more clearly see the bigger picture and meaning of ourselves, of our work, and creative solutions to life's challenges. So some of the science behind mindfulness meditation shows that engaging in the practice slows our brain waves from beta, or states of alertness, to alpha, or more relaxed states. From this more relaxed state, we're able to see the bigger picture of things and understand more clearly and see creative solutions. The more we intentionally engage in this state, the more it becomes part of our overall awareness and how we approach situations just automatically in life. So this is a great resource here, Search Inside Yourself. That I recommend. This is a book actually I'm reading right now, and this is by Chad Meng Tan. He's actually a Google engineer and the head of Google's EDU's head of personal growth. And so this is based on mindfulness applications that they have for improving, enhancing mindfulness, emotional intelligence in life and in work. So I'd like to ask you all to take 3 minutes just to give your undivided attention. All right, so if you're multitasking, I get it, but just if you could just take a moment, allow me to lead you through this mindfulness meditation. Okay, so let's just start with being present with where we are. And if you can, if you're not driving, close your eyes and relax. If you can't close your eyes, it's okay. Just relax. So we can continue through being present with our breath. So I'd like us to take 3 deep, slow breaths in through your nose, into your stomach, and out through your mouth. Let's take 2 more of those. One more. Now, being present with our body, bringing our attention to our body, to our feet, to our legs, our stomach, our chest, relaxing our shoulders, relaxing your neck, your arms and fingers, relaxing your face and your jaw. Just relaxing, being present. Sending a little gratitude for being present, being alive, for engaging here with each other. Again, remember, just being present in the moment and engaging with where we're at non-judgmentally. I'd like us to use this space to reflect on the following. So in what ways do you see yourself growing professionally? What do you see? In what ways do you see yourself getting there? Okay, so opening your eyes, taking another deep breath, coming back here. If you're comfortable with doing so, please share your thoughts on the questions we reflected on. In what ways do you see yourself growing professionally? In what ways do you see yourself getting there? So, even if you just want to kind of write these questions down as journal prompts for you to continue this reflective process, you only have about 5 minutes left. I encourage you to do so. So now that we've applied our mindfulness meditation to seeing our professional development, now let's get grounded and integrate this vision to our lives through daily habits and a system of PD. So some things to think about here. How much time can you realistically commit to professional development weekly? Keep in mind that starting small is a great way to set yourself up for success. It could be 1 minute. If you have 1 minute, you can't fail. But that generally grows and leads to more time. So, and what days and times would be the best for you to commit to professional development? All right? Write those down. And who are colleagues and organizations that you can connect with to sustain a community of teaching practice? Right? Who can be those accountability partners? Okay, moving on here. So this is a system of professional development that we can utilize. And this is a process model, right? Because professional development is a process. So we can assess our strengths and weaknesses, be honest with ourselves. What can you provide to others in the form of PD? What areas would you like to develop to boost your knowledge, ability, and confidence? What are your short, medium term, and long-term goals? What strategies and approaches to PD do you want to apply, and how do they align with your short, medium, and long-term goals? Create a tentative timeline and forgive yourself if you don't meet all of your expected guidelines or deadlines. With this said, this practice will help you gauge what you can realistically accomplish given your schedule. And 5, this will allow you to track your progress and you revise your planning as needed. Take the time to reassess where you started, how far you've come, and your goals and strategies. I also suggest that you share your process along with your friends, with your colleagues, and even through publications and presentations. Others will benefit from your journey, experiences, and perspectives. So we've taken the first few steps together. Use this momentum to continue to plan and customize your own system for professional development. If you would like, you can connect with me to share your PD plan, as well as add me to your professional network and community of teaching practice. Here is my information. So I'm going to put the link in the chat. Please do connect with me. And here are some resources here. I will copy and paste also into the chat if it allows me to. Okay. So these are some professional development resources, and here are some planning resources as well that you might find helpful, as well as that video that we just watched. Oops. Okay, so we don't have much time for questions and comments. If you do have questions and comments, I think that you can, you can send those to me directly. You can send them to IPDAY, and those can be forwarded to me as well. I hope we can stay connected. I hope you can keep the momentum going. I know it's something that we always have to revisit. It's never too late to engage in professional development. So with that said, I hand you back over to our wonderful friend, June.
Oh my gosh, Ramin, thank you so much. So you now have a feedback slide. We'd love to hear from you. There are just 3 short questions that are on your screen right now. If you could just take a moment to answer those, we would really appreciate that. While you're doing that, I just want to remind you of our next webinar. I'm going to remind you of 2 webinars because it's back-to-back, part 1 and part 2. It will happen on May 11th, and it will be unboxing the new adult education standards. And then part 2 will follow the following Wednesday, May 18th. You really won't want to miss this. It's an overview of the new academic standards, along with an introduction to the new employability standards. So until then, I wish you all well. Stay safe. Ramin, thank you so much for just a wonderful time today. I feel motivated as well.
My pleasure. Thank you, everybody.